We haven't heard from Rand Paul in a while. He's been doing work exposing the behind the scenes plot of the Democrats in inventing the insurrection. Now, he gives evidence to it. He gives his personal opinion on it. And I think it's compelling. I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comments below. Of course, after you watch the whole thing, tell me what you think. Welcome to Doug in Exile. I'm Doug TenNapel.
Without question, the Supreme Court has to hear it. When I hear that it's going to be almost a month, though, until the hearing and perhaps longer to the ruling, I'm concerned that even that's too long. I think there needs to be an emergency injunction to shut down any of the states that are wanting to do this and just say the decision will be in 3 or 4 weeks, but you can't be lining these up because they're frivolous, because they are so likely to lose on the merits that we're going to go ahead and shut them down with an injunction now.
I agree with that. And he's also predicting in a way that more states are going to come out with these trying to remove Trump from the ballot while we're waiting on the Supreme Court. This is an emergency. The Supreme Court has to step it up and do it fast. I believe they will go faster.
The reason for that is every day that it appears as if Donald Trump might not be on the ballot, if that goes on for 3 or 4 weeks, that affects the minds of the voters as they prepare to vote. So the accusation, just the accusation alone makes people think, oh, well, maybe he's guilty of something. You know, you think it wasn't planned that they used the words insurrection for 2 years now?
From them planning this, removing his name from the ballot and trying to damage Trump's number of votes just by bringing up those charges too. There's something very interesting. He goes, where did the word insurrection come from? It didn't organically bubble up. It was top down presented and rolled out in media.
We had a riot where some people misbehaved violently and some people should have been punished on January 6th, but it was also a bunch of people milling around too. Probably 80% of them milling around, kind of curious. I know one young man who walked in, never said a word to anybody, was in the Capitol for a minute and a half, and he gets thrown down to the floor in an airport, arrested and accused of a crime. So we know that this was a ploy from the very beginning. Why didn't they call it a riot? Because they said, we're going to use the 14th Amendment. We have this plan. We're going to call it insurrection. But they've so overplayed their hand here.
Democrats always overplay their weak hand. They go, yay, we can run with this all the way. But here, I think it's interesting that he said they came up with the word insurrection. They did not call it a riot. Same way that on Black Lives Matter, they didn't call that a riot. They called it a mostly peaceful demonstration or something. So they come up with their words to attack and defend, but they would not call it a riot because Rand Paul thinks even back then, they planned to run up this insurrection and use the 14th Amendment against Trump. That would be Merrick Garland in the Department of Justice and maybe Chris Wray of the FBI doing this.
This January 6th was not the Civil War, and nobody believes that. And the more video we've now seen of some of these people, the shaman walking around saying, hey, can I go in that room? And people showing them around, and then policemen saying, hey, please don't go in there. You're going to get in trouble. The more we see that this was not some sort of violent riot for the most part, and it was not an insurrection, the more people say the Democrats are just crazy to think they can win an election on this. And then they want to add to it that we're not going to have Trump on the ballot. They're going to add that to it.
Yes, it was a mostly actually peaceful demonstration. There were obviously people breaking windows. I saw that on film. We saw what they did. But it was also people walking in between velvet ropes. And this is a matter of opinion on this, but it was not an insurrection. We did not almost lose this country to a bunch of cosplayers dressed up and a bunch of grandmas wrapped them in an American flag. We didn't almost lose control. It wasn't even close, guys. This is not like the Civil War, like Rand Paul said, where 600,000 of us shot the other half of us, our cousins in the face to protect slavery. That is not what this is about. It wasn't close. The Union was never at stake. We weren't in trouble. And it's fake that the Democrats would ever say that.
You know everything you need to know once you know that the footage that you saw of January 6th played on other networks and by that House committee, that joke of a committee, was done by a Hollywood producer. They went through thousands of hours and they selected out the worst images, but they didn't show any sort of images that countered their narrative. So they set up this narrative.
So that's factual also. They did not let you see footage that countered the narrative. They still haven't released all the footage. They still haven't. They're afraid of what you think. They keep burying the footage so that whatever happens, you can't look for yourself at the unedited footage without someone else telling you what to think and spinning it. Either side. I don't want to see either side spin on it. They won't simply let you look at what happened and decide for yourself. That's the biggest indictment on this whole thing.
And they began using the word, and I remember the first time I heard the words insurrection thinking, well, that's bizarre. Why would they be using the words insurrection? Until the whole thing gets tied together neatly with the 14th Amendment. It has to be an insurrection because those are the words in the 14th Amendment. But the laughable nature of comparing January 6th to the Civil War, and also the demeaning nature. You know, we recently had a candidate ask about the Civil War. Well, to compare a riot where there were no guns and no loss of life from the rioters killing anybody, to compare that to the Civil War where 600,000 people died to end slavery, at least half of them wanting to end slavery, that's just crazy to think that that's somehow going to be equated. The Civil War and the riot of January 6th.
Because they think they can convince you that January 6th was an insurrectionist civil war. Now, they think they have superpowers. They think we own all of social media. We own all of the computers. We own all the universities. We own Hollywood. We can pull this off, guys. We can get them to do it. That's their only shot this November to beat Trump. And I think it's too heavy of a lift. I think the people smell something. Across the board, we smell something. What do you guys think? Will it work? I'm Doug in Exile.